All right, here we go. Big show, episode number 10. We're doing it today. A little loud there. There you go. Uh, yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. I got this one jam packed tonight, so we're gonna try and have lots of fun here. Um, I just want to say hi to everybody out there. I know it's still COVID time, but hopefully, you guys are keep being creative and you keep coming up with good stuff to do. Tonight's episode, we got a bunch of different kinds of stuff going on tonight. We got interviews. We got music from Norway tonight. We're gonna go look. Our theme tonight is we're gonna look at old TV and radio shows that dealt with Upper Midwest music. So we got a lot of cool content tonight, plus a few new segments tonight that we're throwing into. So we're gonna start off tonight with Bill Sherburne. Bill Sherburne, great. We've listened to him before. Spring Grove, Minnesota. He's one of the great ones, long past. Why I'm gonna play him now is because I got an interview lined up with Beth Ratto here coming up. She's the one who sat at Bill Sherburne's knee and learned all his tunes. So this is kind of like warming up for what we're gonna be talking about later with Beth when it comes up after her interview. I'll probably be doing that sometime in the next week here. So right now we're going to listen to Bill Sherburne, and then it's going to tail into a few more Bill Sherburne things while we're at it. So here we go. Thanks for listening. All right, so that was Bill Sherburne. We're going to keep moving on in our early set Bill Sherburne theme here. We're going to move to my old band, Temporary String Band. I was looking through Bill Sherburne stuff to play, knowing that Beth was going to probably be on next week. And I came across this tune, and I was like, whoa, Bill Sherburne, he had clawhammer banjo? And then I was like, oh no, that's my band doing Bill Sherburne. That's my clawhammer banjo. So anyways, this is Sherburne's Polka coming up here. All right, so that was the Bill Sherburn. That was actually Temporary String Band doing a Bill Sherburn tune. That was my old band. We did that for the first Minnesota Fiddle Tunes project CD back in the day. I forgot how much fun that was. Usually when I do a project, I tend to never listen to it again, just because, I just put so much effort into it, and then I try to not go back to it. I guess that's my self-deprecating ways. Anyways, we're going to continue with the Bill Sherburn theme here. This is the last part of our Bill Sherburn theme, and it ties into the theme of our show, which is other shows that deal with Upper Midwest music. There weren't a ton of them, but and they weren't well known, but there definitely were some. So this we're going to go to, of course, Phil Nussbaum. Phil Nussbaum does a great job of promoting Upper Midwest traditional music, and he used to make these little segments for public radio that have to do with all kinds of different Minnesota cultural stuff, and some of it was music related. And this is a little feature he did on Bill Sherburn back in the '80s, and we'll listen to Phil do a story about Bill Sherburn and the band here.
Bill Sherburn of Spring Grove on the fiddle. Bill at 83 has had quite a career in Scandinavian old-time music. Up through the mid-1930s, he played in dance hall bands, stopping only when the demands of marriage, career, and family called out to him. Then he hardly touched a fiddle until his late 60s, when health problems caused him to move from the farm to the town of Spring Grove. Accustomed to working but not being able to farm anymore, Bill turned back to the fiddle for something to do. Since then, twice he's been to Washington to play at the Festival of American Folklife, including a trip for the bicentennial. Sherburn now plays for concerts, festivals, weddings, and dances in the Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin area.
Well, we play here, we play in Lanesboro, we way down towards, played for wedding, way down towards Dubuque. We play down around Decorah quite a bit,
Around Rushford?
Decorah. Yeah, I play in Rushford, yeah. It's a good town. I hadn't played in Lane for quite a while, a couple of years, I guess. And they've been dying down, hardly having anything. And so they called us, and they said it's the biggest crowd they've really ever had there.
We're at a dance for which Bill plays regularly at Highlandville, Iowa, just over the Minnesota line. This is a monthly dance held in an old schoolhouse, and many people say this is where to go to really hear Bill Sherburn at his best. Bill's been playing with Bill and Myrtle Otis, guitar and mandolin of Houston, Minnesota, John Dolly of Houston on the bass, and Virginia Faulted on the piano. There's 3 straight hours of playing here. The band does not take a break, and all the while the tempos and rhythms are lively as Bill leads the band the whole time. Sherburn himself says that he watches the dancers to see if a waltz or a polka or a schottische is required. Charlie Munkle, who drives down to the dance from Spring Grove, says it's more than just the step that sets Bill Sherburn apart.
I like to dance, and my folks were champion dancers. They used to go to old-time dances years ago, and they'd come home with prizes for like waltzes and polkas and schottische, and well, when I was a kid, I used to sit on the edge of the stage and listen to the fiddlers, and I always envied these guys, and I've always envied Bill. I just wished that I could play like him. One time I said to him, how about letting me borrow your shirt and then I'll give it a try.
These dances are part of the Scandinavian folk dance tradition, which was established in house parties and barns, and then by the 1920s moved to dance halls. At the dances are Scandinavian Americans who farm in the area, other people attached to Luther College in Decorah, and out-of-towners who learn about the dance through word of mouth. Anna Ferguson of Des Moines is one of them. She found out about this dance on a trip back to the U.S. when she was living abroad. Now she comes whenever she can.
This is something, it reminded me of when I was a little girl, And my parents would drag me off to these little dances out in the country, you know, in the area where we lived. And it was a great time for the kids because we'd play, you know, we could stay up late, you'd be outside running around, and when you got tired, you fell asleep under the chairs on the dance floor. Just like here. And it's great. And, you know, fiddling and wonderful music and everybody dancing, the little old ladies all dressed up on Saturday night, you know, with their rouged cheeks and dancing with each other. It was great.
Fiddler Bill Sherburne of Spring Grove. This is Phil Nussbaum.
Yeah, so that was great Phil Nussbaum. We had him on the show a little while ago, and it's fun to hear that because it was, 30 years ago, so he sounds a lot younger. It's funny how people's voices change over the years. Next up, we're gonna go visit Chris Yarup. The cool thing that some folks do, I know Rado and the Footnotes have done it, and I know that Dwight Lamb's done it with Chris Yarup. Is they'll play like an old source recording on their CD along with their recording, and so this is Dwight's grandpa. This is his recording of one of my favorite tunes called Storm. So I would just as easy play Dwight playing it because he's so good, But it's cool to hear. This is Dwight's Danish grandpa here playing Storm.
Now Grandpa's gonna play Storm.
Great Danish tune there, Danish-American tune called Storm. I was looking at that last picture of Chris Yarup, and it's amazing. Those old pictures. I think some of my favorite pictures are those old pictures of guys with button boxes. I don't know what it is about it, but they look so tough. I'm not sure why, but just holding that button box does it. So anyways, continuing with our theme that we're doing tonight of upper Midwest programming on either the radio or the TV. This one was actually on TV. This is the Neon family. They were called the Neon Nordic Band or the Neon Nordic Boys. They were primarily out of Blair, Wisconsin. Blair, Wisconsin was a hotbed of Norwegian American fiddling back in the day. I was just talking this week with of one of the Bloms, Lisa Blom. I was just talking to her about all the activities that used to go on in Blair. So it's cool that we're getting to Blair today in the show. This one is the Neon Brothers, and I don't have a year for it. I got this tape from Russell Blomstead, He has a lot of archives of all the music in the area, and he didn't know what year this one was or what TV show it was on even, but it's great. It's two great waltzes coming up, So we're gonna check these guys out.
We're known as Neon's Nordic Band. Our hometown is Blair, Wisconsin, but we from Illinois now, Rockford, Illinois. The fiddler here is my brother Conrad Neon. And the other guy on the guitar over there is my son, Kerry Neon. And we're going to dedicate this first one to Harry Neon of Blair, Sleepy Walls. There, we got the sleepy waltz out of the way. Now we got another one coming up now. Which one are you going to play?
Well, let's see, we're going to have another waltz.
Another waltz, all right.
Play a tobacco waltz.
Tobacco waltz, all right. We'll dedicate this one to Mr. and Mrs. Harold Swenson of Blair. Tobacco waltz. Okay.
Alright, so that was the Nine Brothers, the Nine Nordic Band, Nine Nordic Family Band, whatever. They had different names all the time, but that was those guys. They're great. What was his name? The fiddler. He was a great fiddler, great old-timey fiddler. Next up, I love this segment. This is the second time we've run this segment. This is Throw It Back Across the Pond. So first up, we're gonna hear Leonard Finseth. This is a Leonard Finseth tune that never made the light of day. It's called the 1979 Schottish, and it's called the 1979 Schottish. Guess why? Because he wrote it in 1979. Yeah, that's what goes into that one. So we're going to have him play it, and then we're going to have a special treat. Throw It Back Across the Pond, if you might remember, sends tunes back to Norway. In this case, this tune was never in Norway because it came right from Drummond Township, Wisconsin. But some Norwegians going to get their hands on it and mess with it in a minute. But first we're going to hear Leonard play it. right, so that was Leonard playing his own tune there, the 1979 Scottish. And now we sent it over to Norway to have Oyvind Sandum, who's been on our show before. He's played this very same game before, the Send It Back Across the Pond game. And today he's joined by Ingrid Stuhag. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And she's a great hard-honor fiddler who he happened to be spending some time with this week. They were kind of on a retreat. And, they said, hey, we'll do a tune. And I said, oh, yeah, I really want to hear you guys Norwegian up this Scottish, this Leonard Finse Scottish. So here we go. Here's a special treat from Norway. So nice, so talented, those two, so talented, and so gracious to help us out with our little program here, thousands of miles away. But I guess when you got the internet, we're just a Facebook call away. Next up, we're gonna have continuing on that theme of shows. We're gonna kind of shows that deal with Upper Midwest music that have been in the past. We're gonna kind of deal with two of the biggest ones coming up here. First of all, we're going to touch on the Northland Hoedown. The Northland Hoedown was a show that Bob Andreessen used to do. Bob Andreessen, he was up in Duluth, Minnesota, and he used to do this show back in the 80s. And there's some archives of it around. I think I don't know where exactly I got this archive from. I think Jim Leary. You know, all good stuff comes from Jim Leary. You know how it is. So this is part of his show here, and this was an interview that he aired on his show with Archie Tedian, who we've had on this show before. Archie kind of goes into detail about his new hard-honor fiddle, and he really loved to play those schottisches, waltzes, and polkas on that hard-honor fiddle. He didn't play the old stuff. He played the new stuff. So anywho, this is a great show. And Bob Andreessen, I never met him, but he just seems like such a cool guy. Such a cool dude. You know, he's the one who brought Leonard Finse around to play shows again when Leonard Finse got up in age. Bob backed him up on guitar, and you're going to see a picture coming up of Bob and Leonard, and we're going to listen to this interview that he had on this show, this great show called the Northland Hoedown.
Thank you. This week we'd like to try to catch up with a couple of items of unfinished business. First of all, we'd like to play a tape. It's an interview that was conducted by our friend Ted Heinonen. This tape was made at Bemidji, Minnesota in 1976. The interview is with fiddler Archie Tedian of Brainerd, Minnesota. Let's listen.
My name is Archie Tedian, Sr., from Brainerd, Minnesota. I'm 65 years old and Scandinavian, so the music I'm playing will be more or less Scandinavian.
Well, I'd like to have you do, for my listeners, since they really can't see the instrument, I'm looking at a very beautiful violin, or if you want to call it a fiddle. I see 8 pegs. Nine pegs. It's got a very ornately carved head with what appears to be a Viking carvings on there. And there's what I find very unusual is a set of strings. Are those drone strings or?
Yeah, they're resonator strings, they call them. They run under the fingerboard. You don't play them. They're sympathy strings that vibrate as you play the other ones.
What is the name of this type of fiddle?
It's a Hardanger violin, made in Hardanger, Norway. That is, the first ones were made in Hardanger, Norway, but this particular one was made in Telemark, right close to Telemark, in a little town called Bø in Telemark. And I got it in 1975. I ordered it in 1973, and it took 2 years to assemble the violin. And the wood in it is aged over 100 years before it's even built into a fiddle. So it's got its pretty mellow sound right off the bat. Right after it was made, it had a pretty good mellow sound to it.
How long have you been playing this traditional Norwegian now, is it?
Yeah, it's a traditional violin. I haven't been playing these too awful long, but I always wanted one because I play for so many Norwegian or Scandinavian festivals that it's nice to have a Norwegian fiddle. That's why I bought it.
So how long have you been playing this form of music?
Oh, this type of music I played since I was about 10 years old. We came from North Dakota and settled in Minnesota when I was about 10 years old, and all the neighbors played violin, so naturally I watched them and watched the fingers and watched the bow, and finally I got so I could play it too. And I played for my first dance, or I spelled the fiddler off at my first dance when I was 12. I knew 2 tunes, and I played well enough so they could dance to them, and that's what got me started.
Could you play us just a very short selection?
Yeah. It'll be a Swedish number called the Darla Chattis.
Alright, so that was visiting one of those shows. That's the one that was out of Duluth, called the Northland Hoedown, back in the 80s. Great show. Next up, we're going to have a new segment. This one I want to be a regular segment on the show, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. I don't even know if the show is regular. Who knows if we'll even keep having one next week. I know we're going to have a show next week, but what I'm planning is I'm planning a special show for next week. Next week ain't going to be like this. It's going to be a jam-packed show of interviews from Midwestern fiddlers. We're going down the river, and we're going to study Midwestern traditional music, not Upper Midwestern traditional music. And I've already done a ton of great interviews. They're great. It's just going to be interview, tune, interview, tune, and it's going to be real. It's going to be pretty special. So that's next week. I don't know if it'll replace this show, but I'll definitely be promoting that one, because already I can tell it's going to be a fun show. So, but this is a new segment, like I was saying, and this one is going to be called Bringing Tunes Off of the Page. And if you know me, you know I have a passion for sharing this old music, and sometimes the old music is only the only way we have it, unfortunately, is written down by the old timers. With the Minnesota State Fiddle Association and their work with the Elmo Wood Project, a lot of Elmo's tunes, the only way we have them is they're written on the page, and unfortunately we'll never know what some of those tunes actually sounded like in the hands of fiddlers, but we can take the fiddle ourselves, and we can kind of etch out what they were if we know stylistically what was going on. So, anywho, this is my first attempt at that, and I don't know if it's going to be an every week thing or not, but I'm inspired by this project that's coming up. It hasn't been released yet, but we talked about it once, maybe 4 weeks ago. But Jason Busnewski up in Milwaukee, he's doing this great. He's going through all the folios that are in the University of Wisconsin archive of the great Otto Rindlisbacher. Remember, if you watch the show, we talked about Otto. He is the great from Rice Lake. He's the great fiddler of Swiss origin, but he ended up studying with Thorstein Starning back in the day, and ended up becoming a great fiddler also, and influenced heavily Leonard Finseth and likes that. Anyways, he owned this bar up in Rice Lake, and it was, as we say, it combined all of his interests, which were taxidermy, bar, and musical instruments. He liked to make musical instruments, and he liked to make all kinds of crazy musical instruments. So they're all up on the wall at the old bar there. But what I did was I was looking through that folio the other night for tunes. Just a great resource for tunes, and it's all online now in the archives. Go just look up Otto Rindlisbacher folio, and you can put in University of Wisconsin or whatever in the search engine, and you'll find it. And so what I want to do is I just want to play it here. I'm just going to play it for you, and I'm going to leave the sheet music up. And, you can screenshot the sheet music if you want to. And this is a good way for you musicians, who I'm hoping a lot of musicians watch this show, good way to start learning some tunes. So this one I never played before a couple days ago, but I scratched it out enough that you guys might be able to pick it up here. So I expect everybody to add that to their repertoire and start playing that tune. The final show that we're gonna talk about today is Jim Leary's own show that he had in Wisconsin there for Wisconsin Public Radio called Down Home Dairyland. And if you watched last week, you'll remember that we talked to a Bruce Bolerud, who was one of the founding members of the Goose Island Rambers. Of course, we're catching him, after he had a stroke 5 years ago, and kind of slowed down. But when Jim Leary was in his prime doing this, and Bruce was in his prime, Jim Leary's still in his prime, you know what I'm saying? But when they were in their prime back in the day, he caught up with Bruce Bollerud and Jim and his buddy Mr. March, who did the show with him. They caught up with Bollerud and talked about that tune. It's a song called Nor Norwegians in Dickeyville. Last week we talked about the fact that Bollerud and the Ramblers, they did a bunch of funny songs, and this is one of those funny songs that they did. And it's his most famous funny song. And when I was talking to him last week, I didn't put it on air, but he was really proud of this song. I almost played it last week because he was so proud of this song. But here it is in an interview back from the 80s where they're talking to him about this song and Scandinavian humor.
The songs reflect the fact that there are intact rural ethnic communities dotting the upper Midwestern countryside. Local geography, occupation, and ethnicity are intimately connected in the way people think and talk about themselves and their areas. This connection even played a part in the creation of a particular Norwegian dialect song by the Goose Island Ramblers.
And we had played it on the job, quite a few times, and I heard it this one time, and it just struck me that that's a Norwegian waltz, or a Scandinavian waltz at least. And I said that to him. I said, Wendy, I said, that's some kind of a Norwegian waltz. I said, how can that be the Dickeyville waltz? I said, there's no Norwegians in Dickeyville. And because, I assumed there weren't any down there because it's a lead mining area, and the people down there are Cornish and Welsh and so forth. And so we kind of laughed about that and started, just joking around with the thing. And I came up with a verse or two, and Wendy came up with a verse or two, and we put the thing together, No Norwegians in Dickeyville. And I get requests for it yet every time we play.
Oh, there's no Norwegians in Dickeyville, none in the valley and none on the hill. There never was and there never will be no Norwegians in Dickeyville. Oh, there's lots of Norwegians in Hollandale, lots in the valley and lots in the dale. If you look for them, you'll never fail to find Norwegians in Hollandale. There's no rullapulsa in Dickeyville, no Hasengårda or ganske bra bill. There's none left for Finnskogen down by the mill, 'cause there's no Norwegians in Dickeyville. Oh, there's no Norwegians in Dickeyville, none in the valley and none on the hill. There never was and there never will be no Norwegians in Dickeyville.
There it is.
Alright, that was from Jim Leary's old show called Down Home Dairyland back in the 80s. So we covered a bunch of different shows that used to do Upper Midwest music. I wish they were still around today, but like the music itself, it's pretty much died off. Any of the programming around it, so you're stuck with me on a Thursday night. Last up on the show, it seems like I had 2 hours worth of material, but 45 minutes is what we're going to end up at. Last up on the show was this old interview with Brian Miller, part 2. We did part 1 where we heard him sing a song from the great Michael Dean, who he studied a lot. Michael Dean, of course, was one of the ones who used to sing all those good Irish songs, and he actually found a recording of him. Brian Miller did, like an old recording of him, and has learned a bunch of his songs, performs a bunch of his songs with his group, The Lost 40, and it's really an amazing show. I taught it last year. They have a slideshow in the back, and they do a lot of great historical work, and it's really great program that Brian Miller and the Lost 40 put on there. So, anyways, this is the second part of the interview, which was about his more recent work to preserve the work of a fiddler named Tony Doherty, a fiddler who is an Irish fiddler who also his family also played Scandinavian tunes too, from St. Paul here, and this is an old recording of that he got that he's preserved up on his website, at the Celtic Junction website, and that's where Brian works. He does he works in the library there, and so he helps out with the archive of material there, and this is one of the things he's archived. It's great. Anyways, what I kind of forgot to do part 2 of this, which was this whole Tony Doherty thing, right? And I love spending time with Brian. Anytime I get a chance to spend with Brian, it's great. But the extra great thing was I forgot that he made a tune for this. He actually played one of the Tony Doherty tunes, and I never really watched it because I knew I was going to do part 2 later. Well, here's part 2 today, and I finally watched it today, and man, this tune is great. So first we're going to talk to Brian a little bit, and then we're going to hear a tune from Brian, Tony Doherty tune. So here we go. Okay, so we're back with Brian Miller. Let's talk about that fiddler that you've been tracking down, that old-time fiddler.
Yeah, so this is another really fun story on the research side. So I've got a neighbor 2 doors down here in St. Paul named Bill Nash, and Bill and his wife Carol have a bar in their garage that they like to hang out in the summertime, and so they leave the garage door open. And so I was walking down the alley and noticed this, and stopped by for a drink a couple times, and got chatting with Bill. And it turned out he started talking about his grandpa that was in the Irish American Club here in St. Paul, which I'd heard of. And that was fascinating to me because it's something that Martin McHugh, who's kind of an elder statesman of Irish music in St. Paul, had talked about. Anyway, it turns out that Bill's grandpa was not only in the Irish American Club, but he played the fiddle as well, and his name was Mike Nash. Anyhow, Marty McHugh had heard of, or used to play with Mike Nash, even had a picture of him playing with him. And so that's got really exciting for me. And Bill gave me some photos of his grandpa, and they were beautiful. And they're with another fiddle player named Tony Doherty and Tony's daughter, Marge. So I went on the research track, and I ended up finding Tony's grandson, Chris Cheney, and Chris answered the Facebook message, and again lightning struck twice for me, and it turned out there were recordings of this guy, Tony Doherty. So amazing. Yeah, it's really like a fantastic recording made by the family, with a lot of love in it and a lot of kind of humor and joking around here and there between the tracks. And Marge is a beautiful piano player on the recording. She also plays a lot of Scandinavian tunes on accordion. And then the dad, Tony Doherty, who was born in 1894 in Cedar Lake Township down south of the Twin Cities, Scott County. He plays the fiddle on there. And it's really cool to hear. He's playing all these Irish tunes, but kind of in this sort of flattened, I don't know what you would call it, flattened out upper Midwest style. That I recognize from a few other fiddle players that I've heard, like Patrick Bonner from Beaver Island, Michigan, played sort of in that vein, and there are other ones. But yeah, so it's just amazing, and even better, like for this, like what I was saying about connecting the people's life stories and their personalities. Tony, the fiddle player, his wife Margaret kept incredible memoirs. So she had all this beautiful writing about how she played the piano herself, about how he learned how to play, like how they got a piano into the old farmhouse down in Cedar Lake, all naming other fiddle players in the area. She has a detailed description of what a bar dance is like. It's just amazing. Yeah. That's awesome. Super cool.
Yeah, the music that you sent me, I haven't read all the info, but I'm sure it's brilliant. But the music is just like outstanding. It's just like encapsulates what I think of as an upper Midwest fiddler in the mid 1900s just perfectly. Although it might be Irish, that's the thing that really is special to me, is that it really just kind of transcends that upper Midwest sound that me and you have talked about before, and that I try to push as an area for study for future folks, is that we might have had our own vernacular of fiddle music up here during a certain period that should be respected all to itself. So I find that to be real fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so if people want to hear either the Mike Dean field recordings or the Tony Doherty ones, I've been working hard to make these things accessible, just the same as you, Mike. And I was fortunate to get a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board that helped me put all the Michael Dean recordings online. So those are on a website called the Minnesota Folk Song Collection, minnesotafolksongcollection.org. And then just over the last week, I've been trying to get the Tony Doherty ones up through the library that I direct, the McKiernan Library. So if people look up the McKiernan Library online, by the time this airs, and you go to online collections, there'll be Doherty family recordings there you can listen to.
Great. So before we listen to this tune that you're about to do, let's talk more about where they can find other Brian Miller stuff and what else is going on. I mean, I know right now it's COVID time, but when we all come back, what are we going to be looking forward to?
Yeah. So, I mean, the most immediate thing that's happening for me is I've been playing with a great Irish fiddle player from Dublin who's living here now, over in Powderhorn. Actually, his name is Danny Diamond, and Danny and I are going to do an online show through the Waldeman Brewery on Sunday this weekend. Other than that, the Lost 40 is the name of my duo with my good friend Randy Gosa, who lives in Milwaukee, and we do these kind of songs from the upper Midwest. So we've done loads of Mike Dean songs and songs of singers in Milwaukee. We've done some tune playing. But yeah, we've done a lot of revival of these songs. We have 3 different CDs that we've put out, and then I play with a great Irish band called Bua, B-U-A, but we're kind of in hibernation mode right now.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I'm sure once this COVID thing's done, if people just look at their calendars, they'll be able to find Brian Miller events going on. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's kind of sad that it's episode 8 and we haven't talked to you yet, but now we've done it, and you shared the great stuff that you're working on. Both the Mike Dean stuff and the Doherty stuff are great, and just in general, the Lost 40 stuff is great. I'm a huge Brian Miller fan, so thank you for what you do, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Mike. I'm a Mike Sawyer fan. Thanks a lot,
man. There we go. All right, then. See you later, Brian. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Brian Miller. Always good to talk to that fellow. Just a great youngster doing great work on preserving his home state's music here, which I can, of course, I can really respect. So, now we get to hear the tune from Brian, which is the Tony Doherty tune, and he did one of those acapella things where he's playing both the flute and the guitar. So we're going to close out with that. It's been a fun show. Next week I'm going to do that just the regular Midwest Fiddle Tradition special, Midwest traditional music special, and it's going to be a little bit more fancier than this show. Lots of good interviews, and so I don't know if I'll do that instead of this show or if I'll do that with this show. But as always, these shows take some time, so if you're watching this on the first round or if you're watching the rerun and you want to tip me for my efforts, at PayPal, I'm unarmedjournal@hotmail.com, and on Venmo, I'm @clawhammermike. So we'll close out here with a great Tony Doherty tune from Brian Miller. Thank you so much for watching. We'll definitely see you next week, one way or the other.
1, 2, 3, 1.